Okay, so we're back for the next set of our MSU election interviews. We're here with Renee, who is going for welfare and equality. Hello. Thanks for speaking.
Hi.
So first off, why don't you just tell us a bit about yourself?
So I'm a repeat student. I repeated my final year twice, believe it or not. Oh wait, never mind. I forgot to say I'm Renee McGuiness. Who forgets to introduce themselves? I'm from the west of Ireland, Sligo, and I study anthropology and philosophy. I've always had an aptitude for arguing and debating, so I think my course and the selection is well suited for me. I'm going for welfare and equality.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So just because this whole interview is about getting to know our candidates a little bit better, so why don't you try and describe yourself in 3 words?
Ooh, I think the first word that comes to mind is persistent, because obviously I wouldn't be here if I wasn't persistent.
Yeah.
The second word is what I get mostly described as. It's weird or eccentric, but apparently in a good way.
Yeah, I think eccentric is good.
And the third, I would have to say honesty. But my parents would say brutally honest. If you don't want the truth or the truth hurts, don't ask me.
Okay. Good to know. Sorry, I just spilled something here in my room. 1 second. Okay, we're good. So what do you think the role of welfare and equality entails? Like, what does it mean to you?
It means representing all students. You know, you can't just represent the majority because it's the popular vote. You have to try and include as many of the student body as possible. And you're not going to get everyone, but if you take the first steps, the year after you can do a better job, and then eventually it'll become a little bit more inclusive over the couple of years. I also feel like welfare and equality go really hand in hand, because the argument is almost pitted against each other. But if you take it into terms, looking after minority groups in terms of equality also looks after their welfare, and they need different type of welfare than Irish students would need. Yeah. So I think it's very important to have those conversations, and it's important to bring those groups into the conversation and don't wait for them to be involved.
That's really well put, actually, yeah. It's good to have a voice, be a voice. So what do you think you specifically can bring to the role?
So I am a fighter for the underdog. I always have been. I've always been the person that will ask questions in class, even if I know the answer, because I know that there's some students out there who would have a question, but they wouldn't feel comfortable asking. I put myself out there. So I really think that I would be good at being a voice for students that feel unheard. Also, I have begun, even during my campaign, to talk to students. I don't assume their problems. I've talked to them about their issues. I have liaisoned with student services, MSU representatives. I'm trying to liaison with Maynooth County Council in terms of accommodation. I've reached out to USI. So I feel like I'm the perfect candidate for representing you, because I don't get
Yeah, I have to say, those people like yourself that ask the questions when everyone else isn't asking them is the godsend of any lecture.
Well, the thing is, I can't ask everything, and I can't
Yeah.
include everyone, but I will try my damnedest. And even if I don't, it might not look like I'm working on stuff if I do get elected. But the way that I see it is if I build the foundation in my election year for future years to come, that to me is very productive because it means that it's active activism.
Exactly. Yeah, you need to. It's a process with any of these sort of things. So have you've sort of gone into a little bit of your history there. Have you been involved with or how have you been involved with the university and the students' union? Sort of, are you into that whole sphere, shall we say?
So I would have been in my first year. I was a first year class representative for psychology. And I really like to get as involved as possible. But like many students, I suffer from depression and anxiety. And that meant my second and my two final years were dealing with that mental health issue. I'm out, like I'm not recovered because you never recover, but
That's
I have more good days than bad days. And being a part of the university life, it makes me want to do something better for those students who are suffering in silence. Do you know, because I was
yeah.
one of them. So I haven't been as involved as I genuinely would have liked to have been. But the main reason why I feel like I could do this job is because I identify with those students. I'm trying to be as inclusive as possible. And one of my closest friends, Boopy, last year I was running her campaign with her. It was during one of my down periods, and it just gave me a spark of life back.
Yeah.
So this year I decided to just go for it and to just do it and leave my issues at the door.
That's wonderful to hear. I mean, if there's anything to say about Boogie, she is inspirational in many ways.
Very much so. She actually, it was funny enough, when I came, before I came into semester 2 in January, she invited me to a women's lead conference that the USI was doing and promoting, and it was phenomenal. I think it's the main thing that gave me a kick up the butt to go and like campaign, because if you asked me 3 months ago whether I would have done this, I would have been like, me? Possible? No.
Oh, well, that's fantastic to hear, now, honestly. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about like your campaign, how it's been running, especially with everything this year?
I am a solo team. I tried my damnedest to get campaign people on my team, but no one was biting because a lot of my friends are gone out of university. And I thought it'd be harder than it is, but the students are really engaging with the material. They're following Instagram. They're amazing. And I posted my manifesto today. All the nitty-gritty details is on my Instagram page, so I'm really happy with that. I like it. I like this form of campaigning. Now, if we could keep this form of campaigning up as well as on campus next year, I think it would be really, really nice because it gets to those introverts who don't really like to be approached on campus.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about that. A lot of people, candidates and students have really been trying to engage with this, and I think it's great to see, because hopefully that means more people will actually vote in the elections, and it'll be less of a bias, I would say. So yeah, that's fantastic. So one of the questions I have here is, how are you going to campaign for the students? Say if you get elected and you're in there, what's the game plan?
Okay, so there's a lot.
Yeah.
Just it's a very big manifesto because I'm trying to include as much as possible. So I have 4 main points that I want to deal with: student empowerment, off and on campus support, inclusivity, and funding and finances. So the student empowerment, there's 3 main things that I want to implement. I want campaigns to have student spotlight pieces. So I want it to be extremely personal to the student. For example, if there's a Black Lives Matter campaign happening, I want young students in Maynooth to come in and state their experiences, whether it's on campus or off campus, because no one can discredit people's experiences, but they seem to be very good at discrediting statistics. I want to introduce a student lead initiative. So instead of me doing a lot of the advocacy work, what I want to do is I want to support students who have ideas and policies. I want to push it through Senate. I want to endorse it, and the senator and the student get the credit, and they do the majority of the work. So I know how that sounds, but the welfare officer, they have a lot of work to do, and this will just speed up the process, and the students can put it on their CVs, and they can be really proactive in the university without actually being a representative of SU. I also want to reframe the welfare inequality form. So a lot of feedback that I got is that it's not transparent enough. So there's no information on who's seeing the issues, how it's being dealt with, and there doesn't seem to be any follow-up on the issue. I need to read more into that. So the off-campus and on-campus support, I really want to advocate for safety and fairness when going for accommodation off-campus. Now, I know that's a difficult thing and it might not come in this year, but I want to advocate with USI and talk to Maynooth Community Council, even if we get local training sessions for people against discrimination. I want to introduce a reach out initiative. So the reach out initiative will be where a lecturer flags a student who's not engaging with the work or who's not attending lectures. And then the student services can actually reach out to that individual and see if there's an issue. And then finally, for the off and on campus support, I want to introduce an integration regime for students after COVID. So students are going to need immense amount of support, especially current first years who will be expected to hold the same academics as past second years, but they won't have the social skills that they will need. So I really want to concentrate on that. And then my inclusivity, there's a lot there. So I would recommend that people go to my Instagram and have a look at that, because it's all about policies. It's about creating a disciplinary action against discrimination, trainings for SU staff, trainings for security. There's so much there, so I would recommend that people go onto my Instagram and have a look at that. Finally, funding and finances. So there's 2 main funds that students tend to want. There's the transition funding, and then there's the childcare funding. Now, the transition funding, I know Kieran is working on a project to implement that, but the only issue is it needs to be renewed every single year. So once you stop doing that, it'll disappear. I know other campuses and USI have it as well, but we really need to advocate for it. And even if we advocate to increase or to include a national policy to cover transitioning medical costs. The childcare, we did have a childcare funding before, but it was too restrictive. It only looked at registered childcare facilities. it didn't include at-home registered childcare. So the university student services pushed it back to the Maynooth University to get it reframed, but Maynooth University just cut it. I don't know why. I'm looking into that, but I want to reintroduce it and maybe reframe some of the restrictions around it. And I also want to promote the financial student services that are available to students. I was talking to Ruth from the budget advisory office, and she said that most of the students that she actually sees that would need a lot of her assistance don't know the funding, the assistance that's available to her. And just as a note to anyone listening, she is open during the summer. So if you have any accommodation queries, any emergency fundings for accommodation, definitely give her a ring, because she's been screaming for students to come to her.
Okay, you certainly have a lot on the plan. That's great to see. I really like how you're focusing on bringing people together and having them to you're really showcasing that it's not just get in there and do it, it's get in there and start doing it and take it step by step, which is really great to see.
Can I just say, just because you were saying about getting it together, I also, for the inclusivity aspect of it, I really want to create a shuffle hour during the fairs day, so that any groups manning a stall will change with another stall, so that they get intermingled and they can talk to each other. So let's just say we have a Muslim stall, a representative from the Muslim stall changes with the Christian stall.
Oh, that's clever. I like that.
Interact.
Yeah.
That's forward on all clubs, all societies. So I really want to concentrate on collaboration. I want to concentrate on intermingling these groups so that we get rid of segregation on campus.
That's really great to see. Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. I like that. So the next few questions are a bit more sort of about you. And one of the questions is, what's your favorite memory from your time at Maynooth?
Oh, you're going to think this is morbid, but it's really not. It's one of the turning points on campus. So I suffer with depression and anxiety, and I went through a really dark period. I think it was a 2-month period where I was sleeping for 24 hours. I wasn't on campus. I'd lost 2 stone in 2 months because I wasn't eating. I was really dark. And I remember going to trampolining society. It was one of those periods where I just forced myself to get up and do something, because I hadn't done it in about a week. And my friend Buki from SU, she turned around to me when we were leaving and she said, "You're not going home. You're coming back to mine." So she brought me back to her house, and we spent the whole night talking and praying. And it was so uplifting, because I remember it was like someone had put an orb of light into my chest, and it was like just a rush of serotonin and a rush of happy feelings that I hadn't felt in so long. And I was cycling home the next morning, and I remember just seeing light, because it was the first time in 2 months that I'd seen color. And I know that sounds really weird, but I started crying as I was cycling home. And this is why I'm really, really good friends with Buki, because she saved me. She honestly did.
That's really sweet to hear. That's awesome. And I'm glad you're feeling better now. So that's great. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so the next ones, right? That's sort of the campaign part is over with now. And the next one this was Sophie's idea. She's sort of the one she's the events officer for Mars. And she's all of this was her. I'm not taking credit for it at all. And she came up with the idea of having these quick fire rounds. So try not to think of the answer too much and just, speak from the heart. Okay. So tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Lovely. Cats or dogs?
Both.
Oh, come on, cats or dogs. Okay, fine. We'll accept it, I guess. Do you have a favorite TV show?
I don't have one, but I'm currently watching Grey's Anatomy and I'm loving it.
Everyone seems to be watching Grey's Anatomy.
I don't know.
swear,
I just seen
There's like-
Facebook posts on it, and I thought, wow, that's good. And then I went watching it, and it's really addictive.
Okay, I guess it's just one of those things. Okay, I do media studies, so I'm a movie guy. So, do you have a favorite movie?
Okay, so basically, I love Avatar. I've watched it about 10 times. I absolutely just love it. But I don't really have a favorite movie because I love all genres. The only genre I don't really like is horror. I can't stand horror. I'd be like this person with the pillow over my head going, oh!
Yeah, I'm kind of the same. It's not that I don't like it. It's just it's not. It doesn't do it for me. I watch a movie to feel good, not to be scared.
Yeah. Have you ever watched Hereditary?
No.
Oh. It's not even scary. It's just the gore in it is horrible.
Oh, it's like Saw. It's just blood and guts all the time. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. This is kind of sunset. Sunrise.
Sorry, you're breaking up on me.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Hello.
Okay, try again.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. So the next one is sunset or sunrise.
Oh, sunset.
Okay.
Definitely. I'm never up for sunrise.
Me neither. If your last meal, okay, world's ending tomorrow, what's the last thing you want to eat?
Ooh, that's an interesting one. Either a goosey or stuck.
What?
So I have a lot of Nigerian friends, and one of the girls invited me over to her house, and her mum was preparing a traditional Nigerian food. It's a goosey soup, and you eat it with I call it fufu, but other people call it. It's like a milled oats with a bit of starch, and you have to eat it with your hands. And there's a particular way that you roll the oats into a bowl, and then you scoop the soup and you put it in your mouth. It is the best thing I have ever eaten in my life.
Okay, nice. I heard of fufu. I don't know about goosies though. That's cool.
A goosey and fufu, yeah.
A goosey. Okay. Is there any one quote or saying from like anything, something a famous person said or you heard in the show that just sticks with you, and it's like your motto, so to speak?
So I'm an anxious person, so the one thing that keeps getting me through life is what isn't for you won't pass you.
I like that. That's That's
Yeah.
really sweet.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. So this final thing I'm sad to say. What's one thing about you that surprises people?
I think just how adventurous I actually am. Because it surprises other people, but I think at the end of the day, it doesn't surprise my family anymore. So I remember one time I told my dad asked me, he goes, what are you doing for the weekend? And I says, oh, I'm going to Nigeria. And he went, what? He was like, what? And next thing I was like, yeah, did I not tell you this? And he goes, no. So I literally told him I was going to Nigeria 2 days before I was supposed to fly out.
I love that. Yeah.
So I think what surprises people is that I'm so mad and spontaneous.
Yeah. know, it sounds like it. Oh, just imagine your poor dad. Just like, oh, where are you doing anything fun for the weekend? It's like, yeah, no, I'm just going to Nigeria.
Yeah. My mother told me one time that I don't surprise her anymore, and that I can't embarrass her. And see, I'll tell you a little story. I was in the car with my grandmother at the time, and my grandmother was really innocent, and mum wouldn't really talk about anything sexual around her. So I started talking about sexual stuff like sex toys and dildos and strap-ons and everything. And you can just see mum shuffling up at the steering wheel, and Granny whispers over, "Fiona, what's a strap-on?" And mum turned around and she just goes, "I'm going to kill you." I was in kinks in the back, and next thing she had to explain it to my grandmother. My grandmother, sweet old lady, starts going, "Oh, Fatima!" Like, oh my God. So my mother said to me anyway, she turned around to me one day and she goes, "Oh, you don't surprise me, or you can't embarrass me anymore." And my grandmother's brother, so her uncle, was in the house, and I reminded her of that story. And I says, "Do you want to bet?" And she goes, "Yeah." And next thing I says, "Uncle Amy," and she goes, "Don't you dare!" I was like, "I will. I seriously will."
That's amazing. Oh my God. That is a fantastic ending to this, I have to say. Going out with a bang. I can't stop laughing for a second. Give me a sec. Okay. Okay. So wrapping up though, thank you everyone for watching. This has been a lot of fun. Just make sure whatever you do, whatever you're listening to, get out there on the 10th and go vote. Just, get out there, make your vote heard. Go for Renee if you want. But the important thing is that you do it. It's important to Renee that you vote for her as well. But, okay, so thank you all for watching. Renee, is there anything you'd like to add? Just closing statement.
Yeah, so the importance is just to vote. Even if you don't want to vote for me, just get out there. Your voice deserves to be heard. And if you agree with any of my manifesto points, and you still want to vote for someone else, don't worry. If I don't get the election, I will be giving every single bit of information and research that I've gotten over to the winner. So don't worry about that. And if you see that your issues aren't on my manifesto, just send me a quick text. My Instagram messaging is always open. My Facebook messaging is always open. So don't be shy.
Lovely to hear it. So thank you everyone for watching, and thank you Renee for being here with us. And bye guys.